going to go over the principle on how to bend forward and then how to use that in some exercises to develop strength and coordination in the correct way to prevent any future back problems you may have and to develop the strength to maybe cure the condition that you've got at the moment. So we're going to look at the principle on how you should bend forward and how to then advance that from a simple exercise into a more complex exercise. So we're going to look at coming from a standing position into a forward bend. Now obviously a classic case is a rounded back, I'm going to pick something off the floor type situation, we all know isn't ideal. In a healthy back, to pick something light up off the floor, that shouldn't pose any problem, and your spine and the muscles around it should be perfectly flexible and strong enough to cope with that sort of action. But it's very good to be able to cope with the prospect of being able to lift something more heavy and to develop the right movement patterns so to protect your back and your spine in most of the time that you bend forward. So what we're going to look at is learning to bend from the hips. So we're going to focus on this action here. So we're going to keep your spine, your back should remain in exactly the same position as what it does when you're standing upright. So you want a neutral posture, and then coming forward, you're going to focus on sticking your bum out slightly and then just leaning forward. And the action comes from here. So my back stays the same, but I'm bending from my hips. So my back is no longer really doing much of the work, but my muscles around my upper thighs and my core muscles are just stabilising the spine. So that action there is how we should really bend forward every time we bend forward to pick something up or lean over to reach something in a way that is going to protect your back. Obviously, much of the time we don't think about that, and it's more of just a movement to reach down and pick something up. And like I was saying, in a healthy back, that's not a problem. But for those of us suffering with back problems, this is a way that we can overcome that and develop the strength to be able to perform these movements in our daily lives. So again, we can take that further or break it down, if you like, into a more easily manageable state. So if we take someone who's currently in quite a bit of pain and they're going to look to try and integrate this movement into their routines, then we can add some support. We can take the action down so that we're on our knees, which means that there's more control in this movement and the movement is reduced in its range. So placing the hands on the stool, we can actually come forward here, taking some of the weight with my hands. I can come forward and come up. So therefore, there's less pressure on my back, there's less likelihood of provoking any pain in this action if you're already suffering from back pain. So again, it's nice neutral spine position, you're going to come forward. And again, if you are suffering from pain, if it's stiffness, it feels like muscle stiffness, then try and work with it. Then come down as far as you can without too much discomfort. Come back up again, then work back down, come back up again. Keep doing that action, and you should feel the muscles release as you go. So by the end of maybe 10 or 15 repetitions, you can actually come down quite a bit further than what you could when you started. If your pain is sharp pain, you need to be more careful. You don't want to push that too much. Just come down to the point where the pain kicks in and come back up again, or ideally just before the pain kicks in. So by performing this movement, you actually can begin to alleviate some of your discomfort. So from that, you can then, say, remove the stool. If you don't need that anymore, we can just place the hands behind the back and come down. Same movement, exactly the same, but this time the muscles around my hips, my lower back, my pelvis are having to fire up a bit more. My arms aren't doing any of the work anymore, so therefore this is a way of progressing. So I'm developing more strength by doing this action. So from this one, once that one becomes comfortable, we can then actually come into a standing position. And then we're back to the stage where we were when we started. So we're in this position, again, bum out slightly, back nice and straight, and back up again. So largely we're working our hamstring muscle group here. These are the ones at the backs of the legs. So, good exercise to do if you're someone who needs to strengthen that area. Also, it's important to remember to stretch those muscles as well. We don't want to overwork them and then not lengthen them.